Welcome to Fountain Avenue Dishes, a show where we talk about food and nutrition and the fascinating people and stories they connect us to. I'm your host, Ann Fulton, and today's story is really special to me, and I think it will inspire a lot of people. I'll be talking with a man who happens to be one of my older son's all-time favorite teachers, but whose story and personal journey with food extends far beyond the classroom. I am so excited to introduce Gabriel Painton. For the last 17 years, he has been a social studies teacher at McCaskey High School right here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He is married to an elementary school teacher, and together they have two sons, one in 7th grade and one a senior. Gabriel loves to read, travel, run, go to the gym. He is an avid Pitt fan, and he enjoys an occasional craft beer or cocktail. So welcome to the show, Gabriel. I am so grateful that you're here and willing to tell your story.
Well, thank you for all the kind words, too. But I feel like I'm just going to let everybody down now after all those kind words. I think we should just end here.
No, your story is so compelling.
Yeah.
And for the record, I am a McCaskey graduate. I was there.
I didn't know that.
Did I never tell you that?
I did not know that.
I was there.
That's amazing.
A little before your time.
Yeah.
Class of 88.
Yeah, slightly before.
Yeah, just a few years. Yeah. But in honor of today, I pulled out the McCaskey colors, red and black.
I thought I saw that underneath there.
Yeah, and so I realized I don't have a lot of red in my wardrobe.
Yeah,
So you know what it is? It's a very old McCaskey cross country T-shirt.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well,
and I have to keep the sweater over it because the studio's a little chilly.
It is a little chilly.
So I'd be having like goosebumps if I
kind of feel at home being in ice rinks all the time. So.
Oh, true. You've got some hockey players in your family.
Yep.
And I do happen to know that red and black are McCaskey colors, of course, go Tornadoes. That our favorite color, we had blue.
Oh,
yes.
I love blue. Yeah.
So I actually have something, if we have time, that is not really food related, but kind of that I feel like at the end we need to circle back on.
The blue crew.
It's just sort of a fun little aside. So we'll try to wrap up with that. But I like to start with just sort of some fun rapid fire questions.
Sure.
Because, just before we get into the sort of the meaty part.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, I mentioned that you enjoy a cocktail on occasion. So what is your favorite cocktail?
Just a vodka martini, dirty.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Just go to. All my friends make fun of me. They're always like, "That's not very punk rock," because I love punk rock, and they're like, "That's not very punk rock, a martini." So.
But it's solid.
It is solid.
Yeah.
It's definitely my go-to.
I'm kind of an old-fashioned kind of a person.
Oh, I like those too. Yeah, especially during this time of year. Over winter time, they hit really nicely.
Yeah, when the weather's cool.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite subject when you were in school?
It was probably always history, social studies, politics. Always really into, because of my family situation, I was kind of forced into being very acutely aware of politics. And so even as I was the only third grader that voted for Jesse Jackson in our mock election for our school. So, when we were doing a mock election for George Bush and Michael Dukakis, and I was the only one that voted for Jesse Jackson. So I've always been pretty political. So that's always been my favorite subject.
College, Jesse Jackson came and spoke at my college.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, that was awesome.
I haven't thought about that for years.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's your go-to breakfast? Teacher, you're up and out early.
So honestly, this is pretty boring, but every day it's the same thing, except for on the weekends, but it's 2 eggs and fresh fruit every morning. And then I use a Justice seasoning from Penzeys Spices.
Ooh, yum.
I love Penzeys.
They have good spices.
Oh, they have wonderful spices.
Yeah, really good. Coffee or tea?
Decaf coffee.
Sweet or salty?
Salty, for sure. Yeah, not a big sweet fan. But the older I get, the more I appreciate sweets. So
they have their place, yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to trying some of the chocolate avocado puddings and stuff like that.
Oh, yes, new recipe on the fountain. Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, I'm looking forward to it because like I said, the older I get, the more my sweet tooth comes, into prominence. So
yeah. Okay, favorite thing. This is a good one for a teacher, I think. What is your favorite thing to do on a snow day?
Start a fire in my fireplace. sometimes that can turn into a day drinking day with my friends.
That martini.
Yeah, that can be a lot of fun on a snow day. Spending time sled riding at Buchanan. But I also, believe it or not, I have 3 older neighbors who live across the street from me. Like Juan and Judy and Rod and Miss V, and I like to shovel their stuff there for them.
Oh, you're a good neighbor.
And I just, it's like gives me my exercise, but it also makes me kind of makes me feel good too to do it. So
you mentioned Buchanan Park. You said Buchanan, so I know because that's where I sledded when I was a little girl, and I would take my boys sledding.
It's the best we can do.
Yeah,
like, being from Pittsburgh, like they say that's a hill. That's not a hill. Right.
But when you're from Lancaster, it's a big one.
It's like the best place to go.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
So, favorite book you like to read?
Oh my gosh,
it's hard to pick.
That is hard to pick. But I really like East of Eden by John Steinbeck, and I really like The Grapes of Wrath. Okay. I just remember in elementary school. I had a teacher, Miss Son, who would come and pull me out of class to read The Grapes of Wrath, and we would read it and discuss it and then connect it to current events back then when I was in elementary school. And it was just really neat to just be able to leave class and do what seemed, more fun things.
Yeah.
We would read a lot of stuff like the, opera, like listen to operas like Phantom of the Opera and read plays and, a lot of literature we read together. So it was cool. But I'd definitely say probably The Grapes of Wrath. But for, nonfiction, that's tough. Maybe The Prison Notebook.
Oh, I haven't read
Antonio Gramsci. So that's a big favorite of mine that I go to and read out of a lot. So
okay, yeah. Thank you. Okay, so changing gears. On so I referenced my older son John, who just loved you as a teacher.
Oh, I wish we all had 30 of him in a class. I adore him.
Oh, that'll make his day.
Yeah. He's amazing.
I vividly remember him coming home from school on his first day of, I think it was 9th grade, his first day at Mikowski. And he's like, you have to hear this story that Mr. Painton told the class. And he went on to tell this detailed story. I mean, I would have thought it was, I didn't hear the story, so I don't know that it was verbatim, but he was clearly clinging to every word, so engaged, and it was so impactful, what you said. And I'll get more into sort of his reactions later as we talk, I'm sure. But could you tell the listeners your story, or a Cliff Note version of it, the story that he would have heard that day? So
I for years, well, not years, but maybe the first 2 years there, trying to connect with students, I don't think they really knew where I was coming from because of the way I look today and the way I sound today and things like that. And a lot of times when meaning that the way that you look clean cut. Yeah, right. And it doesn't sound like I grew up in Pittsburgh, or I don't look like I had anything, any struggles and growing up. And then when kids would be having issues, and I would, talk to them one-on-one, and then I would share with them, and they would always be like, "Mister, why don't you let us know that?" And so I was like, okay, well, I think John's year maybe have been the first year I did that. But I was like, okay, the first week I'm going to let him know like where I'm coming from. But being like a social studies teacher, I also had to interject some, political stuff in there and some societal stuff in there and some economic stuff in there. So I essentially just told the story. I said, well, I'm going to tell you a story about a kid named Jamal. And of course, the name kind of registers a picture in a lot of kids' heads. And I go through the story about what happened to Jamal. And then at the end, I say, well, what if I told you Jamal kind of...
So just backtrack. Yeah. Give us the highlights of that story.
So my father was an air traffic controller who was constructively fired on August 3rd in 1981 by President Reagan when they were going on strike for... better equipment in the towers, higher, wages and stuff like that. And when, he went on strike, they fired him, and it led to him being blacklisted. I don't know whether it was officially blacklisted or not. All I know, and when you're 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, it doesn't matter if it was official or not. He was not getting hired by anybody because he was an air traffic controller. And so that led to a lot of food insecurity in my house. Him not being able to work, or him, if he was working, he was putting together piecemeal jobs like, knocking down houses in Pittsburgh for demolition crews, or working at Radio Shack, or he also did like at a bakery overnight some stuff. And, my mom just worked as a secretary at a place that washed the inside of tank trucks. So just not a lot of money. And we had a lot of people living in our house. We had a 3-bedroom house, and we had anywhere between 13 to 15 people living in that house. And that was, I later found out, so that we didn't lose the house. Everybody chipped in so that we could stay in a house at least. And, just not a lot of food, eating, buttered noodles a lot with dollar store garlic salt. Not a lot of any good food that was sustaining or anything like that. And I remember being hungry a lot because when you have that many people in the house and you don't have a lot of money for food. I remember stealing ketchup packets from fast food restaurants and putting them in my pockets, and then, going to the bathroom at school and eating the ketchup packets because I was hungry and not wanting to do it in front of kids because, the stigma of that. And it was just, I just remember always feeling like I wasn't getting enough food. And unfortunately, because of, what my dad did, like we were consistently denied free breakfast at school, free lunch at school. They denied our applications for it and stuff like that. We didn't have a school like McCaskey where it's 100%, to reduce the stigma of kids who need it so everybody gets it. It wasn't like that. Where
I had forgotten it used to be different, that you had to apply. You had mentioned that to me, and I was like, that everybody can get it now, right? And you don't have to go through a process.
So me and my 3 older sisters were all denied. It was just not a lot of good food, maybe like bacon grease on bread and stuff like that kind of stuff, to kind of make you feel a little bit more full and whatnot. And of course, with all of that stuff that came along was, my dad was a big time drinker, and that led to some other issues in the house. Led to a lot of unhappiness for my mother, who unfortunately took it out on primarily me because I was the boy, and sometimes my 3 older sisters physically. Just a lot of chaos in that house growing up, for sure. But the one thing that, besides, getting beat a lot, was the being hungry a lot. That really bothered me. So.
And then how did that impact your performance in school and as you grew up?
So I was in elementary school, I still managed to do it. I don't think elementary school is very challenging. But then when I got to middle school and things got a little bit more difficult and I really had to focus and stuff like that, I just remember being like, I don't care. There's other things I'm concerned with. Just everything else in school seems so trivial in comparison to like what I was feeling in my head or what I thought I was going through. So I was like, no, I don't really care about school. And that's where I really started to mess up in 7th and 8th grade. And then by the time I got to 9th grade, like I was a really, really good football, basketball, and baseball player. And I was playing 3 sports and really good at baseball. And then about my sophomore year, I got introduced to drugs. So I started doing a lot of drugs, everything pretty much you could think of except for the 3 big ones like crack, heroin, or meth, or any of those things. I knew not to ever touch those because my aunt, who lived with us, she was addicted to crack and heroin, and I saw what it would do to her. And I just remember as a kid with my mom going to like different crack houses where we lived in Coraopolis to go pull her out of there and bring her back home and stuff like that, and just walking through these houses that were like dark and human feces on the floor and stuff like that, and just being like, I just knew like, don't ever do these. Just like once you do these, it's like a big deal. And because I started doing drugs, like I stopped doing sports. To me, like drugs were more of an escape and seemed more fun and kind of took my mind off of things. And so then one day, like I woke up and my parents were at each other's necks as they were daily. I can't remember a day they weren't. And I just remember it was like my junior year maybe, and just being like, oh my God, like if I don't make serious changes in my life, that's going to be me in 15 years. Like I'm looking into the future, into this crystal ball. It's showing me like, that's going to be me. And literally the next day I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing drugs. I was smoking. I picked up smoking cigarettes, which is, I know it's probably like crazy for you to hear when you know who I am now, right? But like I did because of my friends and stuff. And I picked it up for maybe like a year and a half, 2 years. And I never smoked a cigarette again that day. I just made the decision.
How old were you again at this point?
This was like my 11th grade year,
Okay.
like October of my 11th grade year. And I was just like, this has got to end. And I didn't have a lot of credits. My grade point average at that point was like a 0.667 grade point average. And I was like, I got to get out of this school. I got to go to an alternative school, which is like, the Burley school here.
Mm-hmm.
And I accelerated all my classes and graduated in like 9 weeks.
Wow.
Right? I just went to my teachers and I was just like, give me everything I need to, what are we going to do this year?
Mm-hmm.
And my math teacher was like, oh, we're going to do chapters 2 through 13 in this book. And I just accelerated through it. And I was like, I got to get out of here. And then after that, then I just got a job working construction where at the construction company where my sister worked. She got me a job there. And worked there and then went to community college and then transferred to the University of Pittsburgh, and then came out here and then got certified to teach and became a teacher at McCaskey. And that's the story I tell. And I'm just like, well, what if I told you like Jamal, what if I told you he actually, I say, where do you think he is today? And a lot of kids, the hands go up and they're like, he's dead. He killed himself. He's in prison. He's this, he's that. And then I go, well, what if I told you he actually woke up one day, realized he needed to make changes? What if I told you that he went to school or he worked construction, then he went to school and then he did this? And then I keep going and I take it one step. What if I told you that the school district of Lancaster hired him? What if I told you he taught social studies in room 209? And that's the room the kids are sitting in, right? And they're just kind of like, and it's funny because then they're like, wait, hold on, room 209. And they're like, wait, that's this room, right? And they start freaking out. They're like, you're Jamal? And I'm like, yeah, I am. And they're like, what? And it's just like, there's a moment of just like complete silence where everybody just like in their chair, they're like, what? Like, we didn't know it was you. And I'm like, yeah. And I was like, and then that leads to the whole issue of like problems in society that when I said the name Jamal, they didn't even think twice. They accepted it. It's like that's okay.
And for those who are listening and not watching, you're white, you're dressed in a sort of a clean cut way, you have your hair cut close, you're in good shape, so it's sort of the stereotypes that we naturally gravitate towards.
And we naturally accept.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the lessons I said, I'm like, where are we at in society that we have just become comfortable and we accept that this is the fate of people of color many a times. That you guys were like, oh, no big deal. This is just what it's like to be black in America. And it's like, that's really sad. And I said, I want you guys to start thinking like that the rest of the year in this class, like this idea of these things that we just accept. And we shouldn't. We shouldn't accept that as that's normal and that's okay. And I'm not shocked that this is somebody who is a person of color who's growing up like this. They were only shocked when they found it was somebody who was like me. And I was like, that's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I also turned it into, a government lesson and a
huge teaching moment, and
Absolutely.
so impactful because you're sharing such a personal, the most personal thing that you really could share about yourself, the struggles that you grew up with. And I remember asking John recently, saying, what are your takeaways? Like, when you listened to that, what were you thinking? And he said, one, like for a teacher to share, like you normally, like there's a kind of a separation between like a teacher's personal life. And he said, I'd never had a teacher just share something so personal and so heavy. And I said, did that change how you went into Mr. Painton's classroom every day? And he said, absolutely. He was like, I was way more engaged. And because I felt like he was giving us something in return for what he was expecting from us. And
for sure.
And that he really listened and cared. And he's like, he said this, he's like, I know I wasn't an equal with him, but he made me feel that way, which I thought was a really sort of a nice compliment for you to hear.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing.
So I was going to ask, was there like a person, place, or a moment that sort of where the trajectory shifted for you? But really, you said it was just kind of like a light bulb.
Well, it really was.
Which
it's
is
weird to
kind
say
of remarkable
that,
at that age.
Yeah. I just, again, it was every day where my parents were at each other's throats, and it was just like, that was it. It hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, you're going to be on the couch 10 years from now, still here, and just doing this or doing it with somebody else, being just as miserable as these two. And I knew I had to like make some serious changes.
What was in that moment where you had that revelation, did it feel like super heavy and like a weight on you, or did it feel like were you sort of like inspired?
Yeah.
Because like you're like, I can do something.
Yeah, because for the longest time, I feel like one of the problems with that we do, and at least in my experience and my lived experience in this country, is that we tell kids like, oh my goodness, drugs, you're a loser, you're done the rest of your life. And so you think that and you internalize that, and you're like, oh well, there's no hope for me. They told me, like, I've already started doing drugs, I'm done, my life is over, I'm just gonna be a loser the rest of my life. And that's kind of the message, at least growing up in the 80s. That's what it was. Like, don't you dare even try. And if you do, it's all over. You're done. You've ruined your life. And so I kind of was like, I believed it. And then I started, when I had that moment, and I just remember being like, no, I'm still young. I'm still really young. And, I've got a lot to prove.
Do you feel like the problems that came later when you were in middle school and high school and you got into the drugs, do you feel like it was rooted in the food insecurity?
Yeah.
Was that kind of, what would you consider, was that foundational to the other problems?
Yeah.
Because I think it's something we hear so much about these days is food insecurity, right?
Yeah.
And, for me, I've been lucky. I never experienced that. So it's hard for me to like talk about it in any authentic way. Yeah. But you are somebody who I think you're so worth listening to because you have that story and you were able to kind of turn it around. Yeah. And you're still, I think, very engaged on that level.
I think that's been able to help me, though, as being able to build relationships with students, especially some of my students who are also coming from food insecure homes. And, one of the reasons I do tell that story is the idea to my students to be like, if you are, like, you can come talk to me. Like, I can totally empathize with you, and I can help you. Like, I'm here to help you. That's why I took this job. Mm-hmm. I would love to have had a teacher recognize it and say, let me, help you.
Have you had many students over the years who have come to you?
Yeah, mm-hmm. Absolutely. And not just that, like I had a student who was doing heroin, and I don't know if she ever went back, but as long as I knew her, she stopped. I helped her with that as well. And I used to go out with her and her brother that she called, his name was, but I used to go out with them on the Saturday before Father's Day every year. Got to breakfast with those two because they said I was like their dad. And so I've had kids that have come to me not just talking about food and grades but also like, hey, I have gotten into it and I need help. I need to get out of this. What do you recommend? And I've helped. So yeah, it's
yeah, I teach some cooking classes at the Benchmark program, which is actually where we record this podcast in their very cool podcast studio. which they use as job skills training for the kids who are in this program. But Will Kiefer, who started this program, I can remember him telling me that mentors are a really important part of their program, but how important it is for them to have mentors that the kids can relate to, who have had the same struggles. So, that's very much you. The kids can relate to you. And I think going back to what John's feedback, that, you always were a teacher who listened and cared and made the kids feel like you were on an equal playing field.
For sure. And I would hope that that's what every teacher at least gets into the profession for. I mean, maybe over time things change and people, leave it for different reasons, but I would hope that all teachers got into it for that, to help people, to listen to kids and try to get them on an equal playing field, or at least as much as they can, get them on an equal playing field before they leave. And that's always been my strength, honestly, was being able to build those relationships with kids. And as long as it works, I'm going to continue to do it.
What would your teenage self say if he saw you now?
Well, excuse my language, but he'd first probably want to kick my ass. He'd probably say, "You sold out, man. Who are you?" Right? Like, look at that car you're driving and the clothes you're wearing and stuff like that. Because, like I said, as a youngster, I was filled with I'll be honest, I was filled with a lot of anger. And in my story, there are some other terrible things that I left out of that story here, and sometimes for the kids too, that bad things that had happened. And I was filled with a lot of anger and a lot of angst. And that's, I got into punk rock, and I just, I feel like that actually helped me to wake up, right? Because it was opening my eyes that there was other problems in the world far bigger than what I was going through. And so that's one of those things that helped me break out of it too, is, that music genre. But my, former me would probably be upset, say that I sold out and I'm in the system now. But then after they'd see that, what I was doing now with kids, especially in the school district Lancaster, when we're talking about, economically disadvantaged kids, kids coming from a lot of trauma situations and stuff like that, I think young me would be, I would hope, proud. Yeah.
I think so. So you said you lived with, you a lot of people living in your household, sort of extended family, not all family?
Not all family.
Mm-hmm. So was there, and we talk these days about the importance of a family dinner, right? Even if it's not like a traditional family, but was there ever a, quote, family dinner?
No. Yeah, not really. Just too many people, or, not being around. Mm-hmm. My sister's constantly not around when we got older. I mean, thank goodness my two older sisters were around when I was younger, or else I probably wouldn't have eaten anything. They cooked for me. My mom was not a person who cooked. Like, I could probably count on two hands growing up how many times she cooked for me. And now when she cooks, it's like, I'm going to go to Costco, I'm going to get the sliced ham and put it in a crock pot, and that's it. Like, no sides, nothing, just sliced ham in a crock pot. I'm cooking for you. So the family dinner didn't exist for a long time. Mm-hmm. And then my dad kind of I think recognized that. And then he started to learn how to cook and tried to do it. Oh, bless his heart. Not the very best cook at all. I just remember being like, oh my God, what is this?
I can remember my dad didn't cook at all either. I can remember one time he tried to make macaroni and cheese and he didn't realize that you had to cook the noodles first. So they were a little crunchy.
Yeah, al dente.
Yeah, that was really
supreme,
funny.
Al dente supreme.
So, and then, we joked that was really his way of getting out of future cooking,
Right. That's smart.
Nobody don't want him to cook.
Yep.
No, thank you, Mom. So now you're a parent of two boys, both teenagers, right?
Wesley's 12.
Not quite.
He'll be 13 in June.
So what is a family, and busy times, because your kids
busy.
are involved in sports and school, and you and your wife are teaching. Is there what does family dinner look like?
Oh, we're
for
good
you
at
now.
It's every night pretty much. Exceptions like maybe on a Saturday, if in the hockey world, that's usually 2 games on a Saturday doubleheader. So sometimes when we're together, we'll go out to eat on Saturday in between my older son Xavier's first hockey game and second game. But every day, Monday, Monday through Friday, we're eating together, and Sunday we're eating together. It's really, really big and very important in our household.
Would you say that your childhood experience informed your desire to have that family dinner? Has that become a priority because you didn't have it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but also because my wife did.
Mm-hmm.
And she said this was really important. And, we're both well-read, and we read the studies about how important it is to sit down as a family and have that time around the dinner table. And study after study says that's very important for the development, of your kids. And so that's something that we strongly are committed to. And I'm just so blessed that Danielle cooks for me every night. I do all the cleaning. I do all the cleaning.
That's good.
Yeah.
So do you cook at all?
I do. I try to do like on a Saturday or a Sunday, I'll look up a recipe. I'll type in like a chicken meal that's hearty but not too difficult, because I'm new to this. So I'll cook a little bit. I'll do some grilling as well. But pretty much she does all of the cooking, and dinner's done, and she goes in and sits in the living room and reads or talks to the boys, and I start the scrub down of the kitchen. So it's a process.
Clearly do the lion's share of the cooking in my house, but my husband is a very good dishes doer.
Yes,
and I appreciate that so much. Yeah. I mean, it really is like he'll occasionally grill. But just helping with the dishes, it's great.
I like it.
Yeah.
It gives my brain a break. It really does. Yeah.
There's a lot of value to that. So are there any foods that, as a kid, were you picky? Or
no?
Because you just would eat anything.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Although the one thing that I kind of remember as maybe somewhere along, I feel like it was somewhere in middle school, so mid-90s. I remember just being like, the one thing I'm not going to eat is McDonald's. I hate that company. And I literally haven't not had anything, not even a ketchup packet from McDonald's.
And was it because of like the ketchup packets and that's sort of like your...
To be honest, the two places that I got the ketchup packets from were usually Wendy's and Burger King. My aunt worked at Burger King, the one that had the drug addiction, and she would bring home ketchup and pickles. So, she would steal them. From her. I can say it now. She can't get in trouble. She's dead. Yeah. So, but So like, that's where I was getting from. But I just remember distinctly just being well aware of like how terrible McDonald's was for the environment for some reason. I don't even know if I saw it on a show or something. I feel like there was like an episode on something like MTV used to do these shows where they would talk about like the Holocaust and stuff. And I feel like they did one on McDonald's. I could be mistaken, but I just remember being like, oh. No, I'm never going there again. And I didn't really like it, but for the most part, no, I wasn't picky, right? I was, if there was food around, I would eat it.
Were you aware, did a doctor, a school nurse, a teacher, did they ever identify that there was a problem, any nutritional deficiencies that you were aware of?
I don't remember. We didn't really have health care once my dad got fired. So I didn't go to the doctor. Mm-hmm. Like I went to the doctor when like this pinky got cut off in the garage door, and or when I broke my nose when I got hit in the face, broke my leg. I went to the doctor then, but we didn't go for checkups and stuff like that. Like even dentists, we didn't go for checkups, unless something was really wrong. So there wasn't any doctors or anybody that were telling me I was having nutrient deficiencies or anything like that. And I just feel like where I went to school, the teachers didn't seem to be really concerned about that at all.
Family dinners are important.
Yeah.
Specifically what you eat, do you think it's very general. What types of food you eat now? Is how you eat now informed by what you had or didn't have as a kid?
Absolutely.
How do you sort of describe your style of eating now?
Way healthier. And again, if I never eat buttered noodles again, I mean, it's really weird though. There are days where I will cook it for like whatever reason. I'll just be like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have
Does
some
it feel like a
noodles.
Comfort food in some way?
Almost like a nostalgic thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, this got me through, right? That kind of thing. But yeah, my eating habits now are just like almost neurotic on how I am with that, because I feel like I have to make up for everything I missed out on as a young person. Like I feel like I'm behind the 8 ball now, and so now I got to make sure, because my diet was so terrible as a young person with, not getting enough food for sure. The food I did get, like ramen noodles, oh my God, eating those twice a day, which I know, again, I'm going to probably have some health issues later in life because of how bad my diet was growing up. So I'm trying to like correct that, fix that. Every day for lunch, I have a bowl of fresh fruits and veggies raw. Like today, gooseberries, raspberries, blueberries, snow peas, carrots, celery, tomatoes every day. Something of that blend of that just every day, with some leftovers. Like today was like pasta with vegetarian or vegan sausage. So those types of things. And I do eat red meats and stuff like that, and I try to be really healthy and eat fish. I kind of drive my wife a little bit crazy when she's asking like what are some meals she could plan for the week, and I'm like, no red meat, no pork, chicken, and she's like, oh my God, this is really, like, aren't you tired of chicken? And I'm like, no. So I eat a lot of chicken too for lunch.
It's probably ezy to pack and bring.
Yeah, it is, and pre-cook it. And sometimes even Giant has this pre-made like fajita chicken cut up. It's like grilled chicken, really, in a container. It's very easy, and it goes good with my medley of fruits and veggies.
Well, if Emily, who sadly she normally is here and having the discussion with us for this show, and she has a sick child today, unfortunately, but she, as a dietitian, she would say, our bodies are so resilient, and in terms of long term, I think she would probably comfort you that you probably have righted the wrongs, and
I hope so.
and you should not worry about that. Yeah. But it is interesting how our life experiences and what we had or didn't have, kind of shape what we
Absolutely.
eat. And I think in this day and age, there's so many messages out there in the news, on social media, in terms of, we have like the fast food, junk food sort of culture on one side, and then we have the diet culture on the other. And I think neither extreme perhaps is great, but it's hard to find that balance. I think, on the best day, under the best circumstances.
Yeah. I guess the trick to just finding consistency too, long-term consistency in what you're eating is healthy, is where a lot of the fads that come through, or people think it's like, oh, it's one nutrient I have to do, or it's protein. I got to eat just protein. And it's like, no, it's like, it's not just a fad. It has
we
to
hear
be
so much
consistent.
about protein these days, right? Yeah. And I feel like there's this undercurrent of like, really, it's all about fiber, and so that'll probably be the next thing. But I do think there's value to that. We hear we should be doing this, and we think, oh, I want to do well by myself, so okay, I'll do that. And but there's so much of a groundswell sometimes in terms of what we hear, and then it becomes like, well, I asked the question the other day, like, what? And I asked this of Emily as a dietitian, like, what makes a food high protein, right? Like that's a term we hear all the time. And there was this whole interesting answer, but she actually had to kind of research it to figure out, like, what actually does.
Right.
And but there's so many, and just being in the recipe world, I'm always seeing recipes sort of being sold as high protein when they're just inherently high protein.
Right.
Like a high protein chicken
marketing
and rice.
Well, it's all about the marketing.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But it becomes that clickbait.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
And
for sure.
so it's just,
it works though.
And it's hard. It can be really hard to just like suss out like what's important, what. Yeah. And I think
exactly.
to your point, variety.
It's a good way to put it. Suss it out.
And I always say just like cooking a little bit is great, because chances are we're going to be eating a little bit better if we're
absolutely
taking the time to use just those whole ingredients that we all talk about. Exactly.
And about patterns too, like making sure you're keeping some consistent patterns with your diet as well, and not just I mean, at least for me, long-term patterns in terms of eating right. I know that I do on like one day a week on the weekend. On Saturday, I'll eat whatever I want.
You got to do it.
Yeah, like pizza, wings, or whatever. But like,
I'm like that too, because I feel like I generally like a lot of healthy foods. Like I love vegetables, but but I also like really like chocolate and I like ice cream. I have that sweet tooth, but see, I like salty too. But I kind of, and I go back and forth. Sometimes I feel a little guilty when I'm having like my nightly bowl of ice cream, but then I'm like, you know what? Like I got to enjoy life too.
You do.
And it's like I have to kind of remind myself that it's okay. Like don't make, if I'm going to enjoy it, if I'm going to eat it, enjoy it. Don't make myself feel guilty. Just enjoy it.
Yeah. For sure. And I do that on the weekend. That one day a week, it's just like my day to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
does,
great.
It keeps my sanity.
Yeah. How do you parent your kids in terms of what they eat? When they were little, was it hard? As they get older, did it become more difficult? Because kids they see what other kids are eating and school lunch. Like, how did you navigate that?
So we were really fortunate. Like both of our boys were quite adventurous when it came to food. Like they were eating sushi at the age of like 2 and 3, and it was like, this is great until we got the bill, right? And then I thought, wait, maybe this isn't great. Like, just get the chicken fingers, kid, right? But like, no, they were really good about food. And it's funny because when you do have that access to good food, like you don't want to eat the bad stuff. Like I do on the weekend, but if you go out like on vacation for a week and you are eating poorly for like 3 days in a row, you're like, you've had it, right? Like at least my body is like, no, not another bad thing. Knock it off. Like get yourself a salad.
That's when I totally crave the crunchy salad.
Yes, yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. And I do that too when I go home to Pittsburgh a lot. When I visit, of course, I visit all my favorite restaurants that I don't get to eat at whenever I want. And it's like Wing Suds and Spuds. It's Brighton Hot Dog Shop. And we'll be driving home on the turnpike and my wife will be like, what should we have for dinner tonight? And I'm like, lettuce. Just lettuce. I can't eat anything else bad. Like my body can't handle that. And so like we've always had those healthy diets. And so our kids picked up on it. And they don't. I mean, they don't really like bad food. It makes them feel sluggish and not okay. And so we're pretty fortunate. I think both of my boys have probably had McDonald's once each in their entire lives. And their mother-in-law, my mother-in-law took them. I just remember the one time in the car we were driving, and this is with Xavier, my oldest, who's the senior at McCaskey, and he was like 4, and we were just driving down the road, and we were like passing McDonald's, and he was like, that place has good nuggies. And I was like, what did you just say? And he's like, that place has good nuggies. And I was like, slammed on the brakes. I was like, pulled over. I was like, when did you have McDonald's? And he was like, Grammy took me. And I was like, boop, 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 boop. Called up my wife. I was like, don't let this happen again, please. And she was like, oh, don't worry. I'm going to call her right now. And, they don't like that food.
Yeah.
So
I learned that grandparents kind of get a free pass to give the grandkids anything they want.
Yeah.
And because I kind of struggled with that a little bit too when my kids were little, because I felt like, oh my gosh, it's going to like ruin all of the things that I've sort of instilled upon them. And then I learned that, okay, I need to just not worry about this. It's going to be fine. But I think also, I guess what I'm hearing is that certain things, and tell me if this is too strong of a word, are like kind of triggering for you. I mean, and understandably.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good way to put it. They are. And so that's why sometimes like it's good that my wife keeps me grounded in a lot of things in my life. And that's what I'm too, like, okay, you just settle down. He had an order of chicken nuggets from McDonald's.
Yeah, because
no, you don't.
It could be something somewhere else, fried food, whatever, right? And but that for whatever reason, that one place is
for so many reasons
kind of takes you back.
Yep. Yeah. And so it's like, but she'll keep me grounded. And again, I said I'm very fortunate that both of my boys don't like to eat bad food. Like, of course, on the weekend they'll do the pizza and wings and stuff, but they too, after like a day or two, if we're on vacation, like we're in Miami or something and we're eating, or Chicago, it's my favorite food city, right? They'll be like, okay, can we just do something healthy? Especially my older son, he is all about being healthy as a hockey player. It's just, we don't have to worry about it. Yeah.
I feel like kids with sports, that can also make it different. Then they learn about it from coaches, and they oftentimes learn, just how to fuel their body and why it's important.
Oh, absolutely.
And from someone other than a parent, which I think can be helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you could go back and pack your younger self a school lunch, what would you pack?
definitely keep the fruits and veggies. They make me feel so good. Like, honestly, and when I don't have them, I feel bad that day. Like, I just feel sluggish and not good. So I would definitely do that. And maybe even just something simple like peanut butter and jelly.
Would your younger self be happy with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Peanut butter and jelly. I love peanut butter and jelly.
I mean, I probably would have, as a younger kid, I probably would have liked a roast beef sandwich or a ham sandwich or something like that. But now I'm like, sliced deli meats. Like, I like them, especially like the Italian, because I'm half Italian, right? So I love all the Italian sliced meats, but like, I know I got to stay away from them. So,
isn't it fun to go back and like, well, for me, it's fun to go back and talk about school lunches. For you, probably not so much.
Not.
Because for me, it was about, like I had there was like that school lunch envy, like somebody else's lunch, but I had a good lunch.
Yeah.
And for me, like I remember, I love peanut butter and jelly now, but when I was a kid, I didn't. I just wanted cheese sandwich, nothing else,
right?
Just
That's
cheese,
so
a little bit of mayo.
Yeah.
But I do remember just certain things being so happy to see them in my lunchbox, like a tasty cake. I was like, oh, that was amazing. And when my mom got those at the grocery store, and these little snack packs of pudding, which were in metal cans then with a little like that pull tab in the lid, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
And like I was so happy when I had that. And I can if I think about some of those foods, it just takes me back to this kind of like, it feels so like
nostalgic.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I take a step back and think I'm so fortunate that I have those memories, because that my memories weren't the ketchup packet memories that you have.
Right.
But also how much tougher and more resilient and, just the lessons that you chose to learn from that.
Yeah. It definitely has made me who I am today. And I feel like, at first it was the typical teenage, like, oh, why me? Like, why? Like, all these other people here at school are fine, but well, not necessarily everybody, but just why does it have to be? Why does it have to be? But then as I got a little bit older, I realized that it opened my eyes to a lot of things in this world, that I probably would have just, I don't know, been snowed over like a lot of people that I encounter, every day of my life, where it's just like, you have no idea about what some people go through. And it really opened my eyes. So it's really weird to say, and is that I'm almost kind of grateful now for it, because I feel like it's made me a nicer person, a more empathetic, more compassionate person.
I was just going to say compassionate, and just anecdotally, I know that you maintain so many relationships with former students, and I think that is a testament to the type of teacher you are, the compassion that you have, that you're just one of those teachers that, so my aunt was a teacher, and years later, she was in a doctor's office, and then she had a nurse who was delightful, and when she was paying, the nurse came up to her, and she said, I kept on wanting to say something, but I was kind of embarrassed. She said, I had you for, my aunt taught all grades in elementary school, so I forget which grade, maybe first grade, and you were my favorite teacher, and your name is my password.
Oh my gosh.
And
that's amazing.
My aunt was just like, oh my gosh, all of these years later, like she remembers me and I'm her password. And I feel like you are probably a lot of people's password.
Well, that would be nice to know. That would be nice to know. But my students, I get a lot of, even just on Sunday during the Super Bowl, I had a student who, I love dearly, Michael Abreu. And he texted me. He was like, I just wanted you to know I just got promoted to a senior position, and it's because of you, right? And he was like, every time I move up in this, and he works for Travelers Insurance up in Reading. He's like, every time I do, I have to let you know that I'm moving up. And I do get these all the time, and it's just
so fulfilling to get that feedback.
It's priceless. And like in reality, everybody just wants to feel valued. We all do. All humans. They just want to feel like they matter.
Yeah.
And that's just amazing. Like, hearing that story about being the password is amazing. And that she probably was just sat there and was like, wow, like, yeah.
But it's like the things you don't know that are out there. Like that was just a coincidence that she happened to be at this doctor's office, and that she came into contact with this woman years later, and that she told her, she could have just never known that. But it was kind of neat that the stars aligned and
Right.
they met all of those years later.
Well, I think what was really cool about the district that we're in at School District of Lancaster is that they kind of foster that like relationship, with students to like take them on, like be like, hey, like I really care about you, and it's not really, people don't get weirded out about it, right? When you build relationships with kids, they know that that's like how you connect, and then you can reach them and help them improve their lives. And so for me, I've been very fortunate to be in this district, I think, because I have been able to stay in contact with so many former students. Like my entire Christmas break is going out with former students, like just this past, it's like 2 a day sometimes. Like I'm meeting with one person in the morning, one person in the afternoon for coffee or breakfast or whatever.
So that's why you drink decaf.
My goodness. Well, I do drink, it's really weird, but I'll drink a caffeinated drink sometimes at lunch. I do decaf in the morning because if I start with decaf, oh my goodness, I'm insane. My students are just like, too much. It's 8 a.m., settle down.
Role reversal. They're
the one. Yeah, I sometimes joke that they're the adults in the room.
That's great.
So yeah.
So okay, a couple closing thoughts.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on school lunches and breakfasts, the free lunches that you didn't get? And because we often hear, oh, they're so bad, or like what do you have to say on that?
This is weird for me because if you're hungry, you don't care that they're lunches that are being essentially, the lunches being provided might not be the healthiest options at times. And for me, I think there's a tremendous amount of, if certain giant corporations weren't profiting from the free breakfast and free lunch, they would be eliminated in a second. I feel like a lot of times that we don't really care if kids are eating or not, but it's there and it's pushed for because there's money to be made off of it for certain people utilizing tax dollars. But for me, if you're food insecure, I don't care how it gets there as long as it's there. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like a catch-22, so to speak there. And if you are, you're going to be happy that it's there. But I definitely think that if somebody wasn't profiting off of it, they wouldn't necessarily be there. I'm happy that they're there. And I understand, when you go back and you look at President Truman, who first started lunch programs, and he was doing it because there were so many people that were there, during World War II draft that were essentially denied entrance into the Army because of food-related, health-related health issues. And that's where they couldn't join the military because of that. And he saw that as a huge national security problem. And he was like, we need to make sure kids are being well fed. That way they can join the Army, right? Now, me personally, I don't know if that's a good reason to give, people who need food. But if, again, as long as it's there, that's all I'm happy that it's there, especially for a lot of the kids in our district. And I'm more than willing to pay taxes to make sure people are eating. And to be honest, 100% transparency, I'd rather it go for feeding people than, dropping a bomb on somebody somewhere else for my tax dollars. So,
if there was one thing you could change about how we approach food access in this country, what would it be?
That's a really tough question.
Yeah.
And I really think it would have to be a reorganization of our economic system, to be honest with you, because one of the papers that I wrote for my master's degree in public policy was talking about food security and safety by 2050. And, we don't really have a food shortage problem on Earth. That's not the issue at all. We're producing tons of food. We can feed a couple billion more people than exist on the planet. A lot of the numbers that I saw, we're around 12 billion people we're producing enough food to feed. Some people are overeating, and unfortunately, too many people don't have food because they don't have the dollar to get the food. Mm-hmm. And so we don't really have a food shortage problem. We have a food distribution problem, and that distribution is directly tied to our economic system. And I think that that's the one thing that I would change, because that's not okay, right? Human life should be protected, and that comes with the meals. And we should definitely make sure that, especially in this country, that there isn't anybody who's hungry.
Yeah, agreed. Well, I so appreciate your coming here and sharing your
Appreciate you having
story.
me. Yeah.
I mean, it's so impactful, and the way that you turned your challenges into motivating forces in your life, how you are sharing them with class after class after class, year after year with students, and helping to shape young people's lives today. I think you're helping to create the change that we need to see to hopefully provide greater access to people. And to your point, it's such a complex problem. But I think we need more Gabriel Paintons out there to,
Thank you. That's amazing.
to make
That's so
progress.
kind. Thank you.
So again, thank you for coming and really just talking about things that can be tough to talk about.
Thank you. I really appreciate you inviting me on here. This has been an experience. I've never done this, so really cool. And the kind words, it's going to make me cry.
Well, you're a rock star.
Thank you.
So we like to just finish with like, what are we cooking like today?
Yeah.
And maybe what is
My wife is
cooking.
She's. I texted her. I said, "Oh shoot, I forgot to ask you this morning." They end the podcast with, "What are you eating for dinner tonight?" So I texted her, and she said something about a honey glazed chicken with over rice and some vegetables, and I said, "Did you just look that up because you knew that you wanted to sound fancy for the podcast?" And she was like, "No, I am fancy. I'm always fancy."
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
so-
We do a lot of the chicken or the protein and the rice and the veggie. And then because you can kind of flavor it anyway. I'm a big fan of like a simple sauce or a vinaigrette or something to pull it all
Universal,
together.
yeah.
And then the leftovers are good. And I'm a mixer. You can mix it all together, chop it up. My husband kind of likes
on.
everything separate, so he can kind of do it. So you can kind of keep everybody happy. Interestingly enough, I'm not cooking tonight because it is my younger son's birthday.
Oh, are you guys going out?
And we are going out. He has been, so plug for local restaurant Luca. It is his top two favorite restaurants in Lancaster, Luca and Passerine. Yeah. And he has been wanting to go to Luca. And the last couple of times I've tried to make a reservation, you have to like really try ahead. Like they book out way, and I haven't done it early enough. So I've failed. So this one, he doesn't even know yet. I'm surprising him. So we're going to Luca. But for breakfast, I ate leftover miso salmon from last night, which is a funny thing because I grew up eating, we talked about sweet and savory earlier on, and I grew up eating a sweet breakfast, like cereal pretty much every morning. Sure. And that kind of set me up to always kind of crave a sweet breakfast. Yeah. And as I've gotten old, and I remember if somebody told me I had a friend who ate pizza for breakfast. If somebody told me they ate like a dinnery food for breakfast, I'd be like, that's weird. But as I get older, I kind of find myself, I could eat leftover like dinner for breakfast.
This might sound weird, but leftover Mexican for breakfast, I love it. I love it.
Because people do breakfast for dinner. I'm here to say dinner for breakfast.
I'm with you. I'm 100%. I'm backing this train for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Where else do you think your go-tos are for like, let's just say like not like a very nice place, but if you're going to go out to eat in the city, like where are your go-tos where you're like, this is our spot?
Okay. So we like to go to, I like C'est La Vie and the Belvedere. Okay. C'est La Vie, we like to go to the Fulton Theater. For those who live in Lancaster, they probably know what an amazing theater the Fulton Theater is. And just coincidence that I have the last name of the theater. We're no relation. No.
Are you sure? I think you got to check that out just in case.
So Fulton is such a common name in Lancaster, and it's Robert Fulton, inventor of the steam engine, is why that name is popular or common here. But my... But no relation to my husband's family. And so it's an easy, C'est La Vie is an easy walk to the Fulton. Sure. So we like to just like walk there.
And they have good deals.
And you know what I love for just a really casual Cafe 1-8.
Oh, right. Yeah. Sometimes I go there with students.
It's a great, they have great bowls, sandwiches. If you just want Sprout.
I love Sprout too. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yep,
good picks.
That's
good picks.
Vietnamese.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorites?
We like the La Cochina that's over in the Zootropolis. That's kind of, we go there. That's a good Friday night thing. I really like American Bar and Grill.
Oh, that's a good one. ABG.
Yeah.
Wings?
Yes. I think they have the best in the city. Yeah, their Southwest Ranch I really love. So
okay,
really
I have a way. Okay, like all respect to ABG wings. They're like, everybody loves them. I do have, if you want to make them at home sometime, a wing recipe that will knock your socks off. I just made them 2 nights ago because my younger son requested them. And bonus if you get the wings from Breakaway at Central Market. They have the meatiest, best wings, and they'll cut they're so good. So good.
Yeah,
so,
I would like to take you. And I also want to try the slow cooker Mexican or flank steak recipe that you had. That looks amazing.
That's a good one.
I love flank steak.
Well, we could talk food all day, pretty much.
I love it.
So we'll come back for a part 2 sometime.
All right.
Because I know there's a lot more we can talk about. But truly, thank you for your time. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your story. And thank you, everyone out there, for listening, for watching. And we'll see you next time.